them. But if not, I will hand over without any further ado to Samantha from Cvent.
Thank you. Hi everyone, thank you. I'll get started in about a minute or so. And if you do have any questions, then please do submit them on here, or we can always have like hands up at the end to run through that. And today we're going to be talking about flexible meeting formats for talent retention. Great, well thank you all for coming along today. My name is Samantha Clements. I work at Cvent as a business development executive. I've been at Cvent for nearly 4 years now, working predominantly with corporate companies, helping them to onboard different technology, whether that be for their virtual, hybrid or in-person events. We do have a stand over the back there if you do have any questions related to Cvent or anything that I touch on today, so please feel free to stop by and submit any questions on the QR code here. So I want to start with a question. What's the point of going to work? Before the pandemic, the vast majority of us went into the office every day, and it was something that we didn't question. But the last 2 years have transformed our relationship to the office. When the pandemic hit in 2020, we were all forced to work from home, and many of us for the first time. Face-to-face meetings became virtual because we had no choice but to go fully digital. Now, post-pandemic, more and more workers are choosing to either work remotely or adopt a hybrid way of working, coming into the office only a few times a week, if that. And here's the proof. The proportion of UK workers who split their time between going into the office and working from home rose to 24% in May of this year, and this is up from 13% in February. In this era of hybrid working, many workers are questioning the traditional role of the office and whether they even need to be present in the office to remain engaged and productive with their work. We're redefining what it means to go into work and into the office. And a question for you all, does your organisation insist that being back in the office full-time is the only way forward? And if so, you're probably losing talent retention to competitors who are giving more flexibility to people. So why are workers going hybrid? The pandemic proved that we don't all need to be in the office to be productive or even to build relationships with colleagues. But what are some of the key advantages to hybrid working? First, it offers better work-life balance. So 78% of people who work from home, at least some of the time, say that they have a better work-life balance. And this is probably true for many of us here today. Working hybrid means you can make work fit around your schedule. So maybe if you need to run errands during your lunch break, or you want to pop out and go for a walk or to the gym on your lunch break, you can do that too. Secondly, flexible working is more inclusive. It allows employees to work in a way that best suits their own working style. So you may be a parent, and in which case you want to be able to fit around your responsibilities if your child is maybe sick or you need help picking the child up from school. Also, flexible working considers those of us who are neurodivergent. So where the office environment may not be the most productive to our ways of working with lots of distractions around us. Or simply you may live further away from the office, have an expensive commute into the office, and also you may be like me and you may have rescued a pet during lockdown that you don't want to leave at home all day on their own. So whatever the reason may be, hybrid working gives us more choice to work in the way that makes us most productive and, more importantly, engaged to not only your job but also to the events that you're attending. And I notice here today, obviously, we're being recorded, so there is a virtual element to this event, which we see a lot more moving forward in the event space. So you may think, how does this apply to your internal meetings and events? So let's look at why internal events are so important. Many companies tend to overlook internal events and meetings because they don't bring in direct revenue to the company compared to, say, external events that you may be hosting. However, they are a key and essential part to inspiring your employees by recognizing employee achievements and also celebrating any promotions. They also help to keep employees connected and engaged to your company. So, for example, such events to set the company's goals for the year or get feedback from your teams. And then when your employees feel connected to the company they work for, this in turn drives employee retention. So to that last point, a recent survey showed that 64% of companies see internal events as being vital for their employee retention. So what does this all mean for employees and companies? So to attract and retain talent, organisations need to adapt to this new hybrid world and adopt a more flexible mindset when it comes to bringing teams together for any internal and external meetings. This mind shift also applies to your internal meetings and events. So that could be from your sales kickoffs, maybe to any kind of town hall meetings that you may be hosting, and being selective about which event format, whether that be maybe in-person, virtual or hybrid, will best suit the particular meeting or event that will help you meet your employees halfway. And this in turn will help your employees remain connected and loyal to your company. The companies that adopt a flexible approach to hybrid working will be the most successful in attracting and also retaining talent, which we know has been quite difficult in the last few years. So what about sustainability? This is something that has come up a lot on the news recently. A flexible approach to internal events is also beneficial from a sustainability standpoint. So I'm sure a few of you saw in the news COP27 last week. Sustainability was, of course, a huge topic that is front of mind for not only companies but also individuals globally. For environmental reasons, you may not want to fly your entire team to your company HQ for any sales kickoffs or company-wide you're hosting. And workers today have greater expectations for their employees when it comes to protecting the planet. They want online collaboration and meeting tools that will help them to cut out their own individual carbon emissions in areas such as unnecessary travel. So think about adapting your internal events plan by incorporating digital tools to support your efforts. So even if you can't go fully digital, you may want to embed a hybrid format that means you can greatly cut back on the environmental impact without sacrificing any engagement at your event or your meeting. The choice of which event formats to use can help your company to reach its own climate targets, that making your organisation more attractive a proposition for lots of new talent. And this is something that we're seeing a lot recently, is a lot of event planners are being given sustainability targets to also reach, and this will then of course extend into maybe into the office and your own internal events that you're hosting. So we've gone through the why and why hybrid is the way forward and why virtual and being more flexible with your meeting events is a way forward. But you may want to also think about, well, how do I put this into practice and how can I actually start implementing this at my own internal events and meetings? So let's talk through about how you can practically adapt your internal events to accommodate this shift in the working patterns. So thinking about what is the best format for your internal events. So first of all, think strategically about what event format will work best for what you're trying to achieve. So some events would, of course, benefit from a face-to-face exchange. So whether that's maybe like hands-on trainings, workshops, or any kind of networking element to the event, does tend to lend itself to in-person. It has the advantage to be able to, when you connect in person, you feel like you get more out of the meeting, you maybe feel more comfortable being in person. And if the goal of your event revolves around any type of collaboration or team building, strategic thinking, maybe like a kind of peer-to-peer communication, then gathering together physically rather than virtually may be the best way forward. But then on the other hand, virtual meetings offer the flexibility of being able to share any content easily. So you may be able to include employees who live in other countries or they live too far away to travel in. And there are, of course, different time and cost savings that you get as well with any kind of virtual element. So this can be ideal for any routine meetings and trainings that you have on a regular basis, where there is less of a business case for any cost or travel, accommodation, any kind of food and beverage costs. But you may also want to think about combining both of these formats to give you the best of both worlds. So you can bring some teams together for things like SKOs or company-wides if they are in the same location, but also build on those connections with those employees who are in other locations. So it's important to carry out this assessment and define your goals beforehand, as this will help you to decide which type of event is the most suitable, ensuring that this becomes the foundation for your internal events program. This will also help you to not lose any talent to any competitors that are already offering this greater flexibility within their teams and their meetings and events. So once you've assessed the right format for your event, it's time to think about the execution. So your company is likely running many internal meetings and events throughout the year. And adding different formats, in person, hybrid, virtual, of course adds a layer of complexity, especially for your events team and your marketing team. It adds another layer of thinking. So this is where technology can help. Event technology helps to make planning and execution a lot easier. So it allows you to get transparency and visibility into all of your meetings and events. Platforms like Cvent can help you manage and track every stage of your event and automate any manual processes that you may be doing currently. So whether your employees are on-site, whether they are remote, you can use technology to deliver any kind of immersive and engaging experiences for all your employees. And we're going to just walk through now a few ways of how you can do that. So looking at this page here, web and mobile apps aren't just for your external events, and this may be something that you are currently doing. You can also use them for any internal events to boost engagement. So it's a great and easy way to allow your employees to participate and provide any feedback, maybe in your town hall meetings, or to create buzz around product launches and sales kickoff events. And you can also use them to facilitate any learning through interactive polling, any Q&A, during any seminars and workshops that you're hosting. You can also record sessions and keep them on demand so that your employees and teams can watch back in their own time, at their own pace, or maybe they can share them with any colleagues that didn't originally get a chance to look at that. We have our virtual tool called our Attendee Hub, which is our virtual platform. It also doubles up as a mobile app, so it's a hybrid tool. And this allows your attendees to access their event schedule. They can watch any live pre-recorded content. They can also access on-demand content at their review, their own time. They can also connect with their other colleagues. And there's lots of different ways that you can have things like push notifications in order to keep in touch with your attendees as well. Another thing that comes up a lot is in order to get valuable feedback, as we all know that helps us to plan the next event, know what went well, know what maybe we could change for next time. So you can use surveys to get valuable feedback about how your employees engaged with your event, and you can review the impact on engagement metrics. So we have something called our engagement scoring as well. It will help you to determine if your event met the target goals that you'd put in beforehand and demonstrate the value of the event. So this can be particularly useful for things like trainings, any type of strategic planning or team building events. You can send out surveys before the event. This will also help you to fine-tune things like the agenda, know what people are interested in, ensure that the content aligns with your product, with your employees' interests. You may also want to test any of your employees' knowledge to know whether if you do things like certificates, or know if they were actually taking part and listening to the content that you were showing on the day. It's important to demonstrate the ROI, or the impact of your internal event. For this, you may need to pull the right data to share it with any of your managers or your colleagues that may have put those targets in place beforehand to see if you can reach those KPIs or that target that you've been set. And this data can include metrics on things like engagement, motivation, as well as attendance for the event. So you can track who was actually paying attention and who did show up and attend. A good event technology platform will allow you to collect and centrally store all this data through things like polls, surveys, live Q&A, any kind of other feedback tools that you may be using. A platform like Cvent allows you to generate reports so that you can measure your performance of your events and understand what work may need to be done or what requires improvement. It also allows you to run single event analysis and also cross-event analysis, so you can see how things have tracked year on year or quarter on quarter based on your requirements. So to illustrate the power of combining in-person and digital for your internal events, I have an example from our own company-wide event sales kickoff that we had earlier this year. So we tend to host these at the beginning of the year, so it was February 2022. And to give you some context, Cvent is a global company. We have over 4,500 employees all around the world. So that's based from the US to India, the UK, Germany, Singapore, Australia, all across the globe. And following the pandemic, we introduced a hybrid way of working. So our teams don't need to be in the office every day. They can work from home on days that suit them. There's also requirements around, if you live a certain distance away, that you can work from home. But because we're such a large company, pulling off a company-wide and an SKO requires careful planning. So to ensure that our employees were able to participate, we organised a virtual and in-person watch parties globally. So, for example, if you remember at the start of the year, there was a new wave of COVID with Omicron. We didn't want to travel and send teams across to the US. So we hosted a UK watch party in the UK. So in London, we had rented out a cinema where our team would get together. We could still connect with our colleagues over in the US or globally through the mobile event app, through Q&A, polling, chat messenger as well. So it allowed us all to still experience the event together. And it helped to build connections even, say, with the team in Germany or new colleagues that maybe we hadn't met with before. So that's just an idea of how you can combine a hybrid approach with technology to deliver internal events that boost engagement and loyalty among your employees. So the team in the US would have the stream from the live content there across for the teams all in the other global areas. So thinking back to what I've mentioned today, there are 3 keys to employee satisfaction. So internal events are a key part of attracting and retaining your employees. They have the power to communicate company culture, things like celebrating your employee achievements and motivating your own internal teams. And because they're so important, and in the light of the shift in the ways that we are working and what we saw earlier, it's important that your organisation is intentional about which formats you use to deliver your different events. So there are a wide array of tools that can help you support your efforts and also help you to build a business case. As we all know, workers' expectations have changed. They want to work for companies that offer more flexibility and also a greater company culture, and comes with that more flexibility with being able to work from home and fit around your own schedule. To meet this demand, you want to be proactive about identifying which of your existing meetings and events require people to be face-to-face, and maybe which ones work well being virtual. And you can take this one step further by considering ways to combine the two. So ultimately, your organisation's ability to attract new talent and keep employees happy will depend on the flexibility that you offer. So thank you all for listening today. Did anyone have any questions, or were there any questions in the app? Pass to you.
Thank you very much. I think on Glisser there was one that came through during the session. So how important, in your opinion, are high production values when creating kind of internal events? So is it worth the business spending more to create a high quality internal event? And does that create the relevant benefits to the company?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it depends on what type of event it is that you're hosting. So if it's maybe like a quarterly event that you have of just a content update or some marketing updates, you may not necessarily need that. But if it's things like an SKO or a company kickoff that you have on an annual basis, then I think having that high production does make it feel more professional and make your company feel that it has been valued as well. So things like maybe when you're having promotions announced, that people want to feel like it's a special moment for them. And I think doing that on something like Zoom or Teams, it wouldn't translate as well if you didn't have the production. But again, I think that's more of an analysis basis on an event-by-event basis, yeah.
Perfect. And I've got one more question that just kind of came to me while I was watching. In terms of accessibility and people being able to engage in meetings they otherwise might not be able to attend, I guess that kind of virtual space offers some wins for companies in that way as well. We've seen closed captioning today. That sort of thing, I guess, is an option.
Yeah, definitely. We have closed captioning within Cvent. Also, you can stream any of your content into other languages as well. We support over 25 languages. So if you do have team members that maybe, English isn't their first language, or they'd feel more comfortable having it based in another language, we can definitely do that. And again, it comes back to that accessibility and flexibility, not just around, it's more keeping everything inclusive, that maybe people can't travel in. They may have reasons why they need to be at home. And it's making that kind of more available to everyone to still feel like they're a part of something.
Perfect. Amazing. And the final question, I think you mentioned it in your presentation. If people want to find out more about what you do, where's the best place for them to go and do that?
So we have our stand over the back there, so you can come stop by, chat to any of us, but also if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, Samantha Clements, and I can point you in the right direction. Yeah, thank you everyone.